Hi, class. It's Dr. Lindner. We are going to talk about nervous or neural tissue. Now, we've spoken about epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue. The very last type is nervous. I like the word neural because I don't want to be nervous. There's power to words. So, neural tissue. Now, in your textbook, it's going to be nervous tissue and nervous system. It's just me. I like to use the word neural. So they're interchangeable for now, okay? In the neural system, there are two types of cells. There is a nerve, or actually, let me change that, call it neuron, and there are neuroglial cells. So we have neurons and neuroglial cells or neuroglial cells. When we cover the nervous system in more detail, we'll go over both of these. But right now, we're just going to focus on the neuron. The neuron is what is electrically excitable. Electrically excitable. And understanding this is going to be important when we get into muscles, because when we do muscles, we have to understand how muscles contract. And you'll be hearing of something called the NMJ, which is the neuromuscular junction. In order to understand the neuromuscular junction, we have to understand this. This is a neuron, okay? And you could see by the arrow the direction that messages travel. They go from here and they move in this direction to this end. So the three main parts of a neuron are the soma, which is the cell body, dendrites, which are these branches. Dendra in Greek means branches. And the third part is called an axon. Those are the three main parts. Okay, yes, there's a nucleus. And yes, at the very end of axons are axon terminals. But those are the three main parts. The dendrites bring in sensory information to the cell body. And then the cell body processes it and then sends that message or electrical current down the axon, all the way to the very end where we have an axon terminal. And right here at the end of the axon terminal, these swollen tips at the end are going to make contact with an organ or a muscle. So let's say this is a muscle. We can call this junction between the muscle and the nerve the neuromuscular junction. And what's stored here in this axon terminal, at the end, it looks like a bulb, and they call those bulbs synaptic bulbs. And all these synaptic bulbs do is they're going to store neurotransmitters. What do they store? Neurotransmitters. And these are just chemical messengers. And you've heard of neurotransmitters. Maybe you've heard of serotonin and dopamine and GABA or acetylcholine. These are neurotransmitters. So at the neuromuscular junction, the important neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. It's always excitatory. It's involved in making muscles contract, right? That's just a little foundation stuff. Also, see this myelin? It says myelin sheath. So neuroglial cells, we have different types of neuroglial cells. One of them is called a Schwann cell, and another is called an oligodendrocyte. Now, again, when we get into neurology, we'll go over these in more detail, but these two, Schwann cells and oligodendrocytes, they produce something called myelin. Myelin is made of fat and cholesterol. That's why we need cholesterol in our diet, we need fat in our diet, so that we can make this myelin sheath. So what is myelin sheath? Think of anything that you ever plug in, whether it's a toaster, whether it's a TV, anything that you ever plug in, your cell phones to charge has a plug. And there's something that insulates the wires. right? You don't see the electrical fibers, and that's because there's something insulating them. It's that protective insulators. And some wires it's black, sometimes it's white, depending on the wires. But we need that protection. So this myelin sheath is this fatty type of cholesterol that insulates the neuron, protects it, and speeds up the nerve conduction. When you have myelin, it speeds it up really, really fast so that the message gets to the end very quickly. Now, there are some people that have an autoimmune condition against the Schwann cells or against the oligodendrocytes. Now, if your body is attacking these, then you can't make myelin. And if you can't make myelin, that disease is known as MS, multiple sclerosis. And now the nerve conduction slows down, and people start to have these issues with their muscles. Okay, usually the muscles of the eyes are affected first because they're the smallest, and the nerves of the eyes are the smallest. So typically with multiple sclerosis, people get these visual disturbances. Okay, but thank goodness the optic nerves and the cranial nerves, those are not part of the central neural system. They're part of the peripheral neural system, and anything in the peripheral neural system can heal. So I've had patients before that have had demyelination of the optic nerves, and the myelin, we were able to get it to regenerate to heal. Okay. Okay. We'll take a break and then we'll do a quick tissue review.